Hi. Greetings from Wisdom Lord Raphael. Before we start, please hit the subscribe button and hit the notification icon and don't miss any contents. This is the light novel of that time I got reincarnated as a slime. If you haven't watched previous video, I will leave the link on the description box, or you can click here. Let's start. This is Tensura Light Novel Volume 16. Tensura Light Novel. Volume 16. The End of the Game. Chapter 3. Toward Rebuilding. Forewarning Battles. After the lunch break, the meeting resumed at 3 in the afternoon. In the morning session, the general plan had been decided. The afternoon session was scheduled to reconfirm them and discuss the sharing of responsibilities. Now then, allow me to reconfirm. First, the armed nation of Dworgen. Tensura began the session. Then, she listed the topics in need of confirmation. The first step was for Tempest and Dworgen to jointly approve the accession of the new emperor. Then, in the name of the new emperor Masayuki, they would declare the end of the war and establish the tripartite alliance. In this way, a framework different from that of the Western States Council would be created. Dworgen's role was to rebuild the area near the border together with the empire, including the roads and buildings in the vicinity. To a lesser extent, this also included providing relief to the victims involved in the war. Trust would come after trust was earned. With that momentum, the construction of the railroad to the imperial capital would begin. We decided to accomplish this difficult task while rebuilding the road that the magic tank division of the empire had cut in the foothills of the Kanat Mountains. A team of leaders from our country would also be dispatched to work with the dwarf engineers to complete the project. When the magic train came through, logistics would be streamlined and people would be able to come and go as they pleased. We would be entering into a new era of development. When I dream of that day, I can't stop from feeling excited. Once again, I confirmed my preference to make constructive plans. So, what are the roles of our Jura Tempest Federation? Our main responsibility was to provide full support to Masayuki. We would send Tensura to set up an embassy in the empire. The goal was to dispel the old mindset of the empire and make it feel as if a new era had arrived. The subjects of the empire had never been defeated in war before. They had never apologized to another nation for their mistakes, even when they were hurt by Valdora. Perhaps this speaks to Rudra's greatness, but that was also a reason why the subjects of the empire might not be able to accept this defeat. Those who had lost loved ones would understand the pain. However, it was likely that those who were just sitting on their laurels at home would demand another war from a safe position. They would focus only on the benefits to be gained and be insensitive to the pain of others. It is highly likely that they would not be pleased with Masayuki's opposition to war. With Velgrind around, there was no point in directly interfering, but they might interfere behind the scenes while showing reverence on the outside, which would be a very troublesome thing. It was up to Minutes to persuade the nobles, and Calgurio would be in charge of the military. However, I was worried that the two of them were not strong enough to deal with the cunning old underbelly of society. Velgrind had casually suggested. Why don't I just kill them all? But we could not let her do such a thing. In an empire of dwindling talent, there was no way they could afford to reduce the number of human resources any further. We would have to use such troublesome people to our advantage. The road ahead was a difficult horny path, but I had come to the conclusion in the last few days that we had no choice but to try. That is where Tensura comes in. With the help of Moss, our agent with a hell of an ear, we could sweep away the schemes of the malicious in one fell swoop. Even those who are troublesome when swarmed together may become cooperative if we persuade them by grasping their individual weaknesses. The Western States Council was now settled to the point where Sien alone could handle it, so it was decided that Tensura would be transferred. It was also decided that Venom would continue to accompany Masayuki as his bodyguard. I'll be borrowing some of your family members, is that okay? Kufufufu, no problem. If it is for the good of Rimuru-sama, please do not hesitate to use them. I had nothing to say about this. As for Diablo, it was too tiring to dig into it. Unlike the morning discussion, the afternoon was livelier. After the problems that the imperial side had put together were disclosed, everyone discussed them to come up with countermeasures. It was a very meaningful time. We, as members of the empire, will never forget the kindness you have shown us. Hey now, we are still in the planning stages. We're just starting to make things happen. If you want to thank me, wait until the project is completed. Hahaha, the project, huh? I'm no match for your majesty Rimuru, that this national challenge can be described in one word. Minute-san was smiling. But there was a gleam in his eyes, and my words seemed to have ignited his will to fight. I'm glad that he was motivated. In this way, we reached an agreement on the plan, but there was still a problem that we should not forget. It was Gazelle who mentioned it. So, Rimuru. Let me ask you the most important question. Can you win? It was true. Michael and Feldway and their men, there was a threatening enemy out there, watching us with an eagle eye. Honestly, I can't guarantee that I'm going to win, but I'm definitely not going to lose. Well, it's you after all, so no matter what method is used, I'm sure you'll do whatever it takes to turn those words into something real. Even overestimated. To be honest, when I saw Velgrin-sama's strength, I was prepared for defeat and death. I knew she was strong, but I didn't expect her to be that powerful. Vaughn and Dole-san nodded in agreement at Gazelle's frank confession. Well, I thought it was over too when I saw Tensura and the others collapse. After that, because I was so angry, I got over my fear, or rather, I felt like it was over before I realized it, and thinking back on it now, I wonder how I even managed to win. But well, I have Sela now. And Voldora and Diablo and the others. It was reassuring to know that I'm not alone. I never thought I'd lose to a slime either, but now I'm grateful. I don't think that even Velzard can beat Rimuru. Velgrind, not offended by Gazelle's words, said this quite matter-of-factly. I doubted that I could defeat Velzard-san, who had beaten Voldora one-sidedly, but I was pretty sure that Velgrind was speaking from the heart. I'm also embarrassed by your high opinion of me. Don't be modest. Your victory over me was not by luck, but by sheer strength. Moreover, you won overwhelmingly, so what are you talking about? Velgrind was not ashamed of her defeat, because it was in the past for her. I think she had overcome it now, and accepted it honestly. It was people like that who scared me the most, and I secretly raised my alert level on Velgrind. From here, it was time to talk seriously about my own thoughts. The reality is that we don't know what the enemy's true strength is, and we cannot predict how they'll react. Regardless of their purpose, I'm curious about their aim, or rather, what kind of methods they will use. As I said this, I projected several people onto a giant screen. These are the enemies that invaded the labyrinth this time. Their existence values are roughly equivalent to 3 million, which is a high level of strength even compared to the leaders of our country. They're such a nasty opponent that I think it's best to avoid fighting them one-on-one. After I said that, I disclosed all of the information I knew. Then, as if to add to my story, Velgrind said. I eliminated this one, but I have a word of advice. These people are the ones who used to help Brother Veldanava in ancient times, and they are as nasty as the primordials. Their bodies are currently still sealed, and all those who appeared in the labyrinth were just a weakened split body. They can't be defeated by ordinary means, so you'd better be on your guard. Hearing that put one at a loss for words. Because Velgrind, the one who said such a thing, had already destroyed one of them so easily. That is the effect of the dimension leap in Velgrind's power. Velgrind herself can only leap towards the mark of Rudra's soul fragment, but she should have no problems firing her technique towards the mark. I see. In other words, Velgrind traced a connection between Cornu's split body and his main body, and destroyed both of them together. That's right. If it is a space-time continuous attack that can transcend time and space, then there is no way to escape it, even if the being is a parallel existence. Seriously, that's messed up. I mean, Velgrind was just too good. I didn't know how much experience she had accumulated, but she was now perfectly in control of her own powers. She was already powerful before, but now she had become even stronger. Voldora was so happy to learn parallel existence, but this turned out to be completely pointless. I wonder if Voldora knew about this. I felt a little sorry for him. I wasn't the only one who didn't know how to react. The Imperials and Gazelle's group were also pondering carefully over Velgrind's words. The Empire still had a trump card with Velgrind. They could rely on her, but the problem was Dworgen. We can't win, huh? That's right. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do. Vaughn. But it's true. There's no point in trying to look good, so why don't we just have an honest discussion and think about countermeasures? No, you're right, but Vaughn is right. We can't win against them anyway, but we should still have a plan for when we do encounter them. So, Your Majesty Rimuru, based on the goals of you, Michael, and the Phantom King, do you think Dworgen will also be involved? It's unlikely, right? It probably doesn't matter. It's not that it's safe, it's just that it's a lower priority. So because the enemy's goal is to resurrect their god Veldanava, they don't care about Dworgen anyway, correct? I don't mean to be rude, but I suppose. It's okay. As a warrior, I am unhappy, but as a king, I am relieved. Gazelle finished and smiled bitterly. So, by that measure, is the enemy serious? Kufufufufu. Do they think that by harnessing the power of Voldora-sama and Velzard-sama, the resurrection of Veldanava-sama will be accomplished? All I can say is that it's a stupid idea. In the first place, Veldanava-sama is immortal. To resurrect him through human power is beyond foolishness. Diablo scoffed, and Benamera was indignant. It is a mystery as to why Veldanava has not been resurrected, but it is still true that the true dragon race is immortal. I also agreed with the opinion that we should just leave it alone, left unspeakable. But if that's the case, won't the Dragon Princess be targeted as well? Calgurio pointed out sharply. Indeed, Milim had inherited Veldanova's power, so it would not be surprising if she was targeted. This question was answered by Velgrand. That possibility cannot be denied, but to mess with my brother's beloved would be to put the cart before the horse. It's possible for them to simply want to take his power, but if they sincerely wish for his resurrection, then I'd like to think they wouldn't do anything that would offend him. Well, Milim was strong, and she didn't seem to have an ultimate skill of the angelic system. Plus with Carrion-san and Free-san having awakened, I didn't think we would need to worry too much about her. Since Velgrand thought things were okay, it would probably be enough just to warn them. However, there was something else that bothered me. In that way, doesn't it sound like Veldanova was unconcerned about his siblings? You're pretty rude. Velgrand looked at me, seemingly more speechless than annoyed. I'm sorry. I'm an honest person, so I just… well, it's fine. Lucky. Velgrand's generosity saved my life. I would reflect on this and be careful on what I said in the future. It doesn't matter. A true dragon thinks differently than the rest of those who have an end in sight. The same goes for Velzardni, who has destroyed Veldora over and over again in the name of education. So, perhaps they are planning to wait for the resurrection of Brother Veldanova before releasing our power. Yes, that made sense. They think he'll be resurrected after he's eaten, just like I did. In doing so, the memories would be inherited, so whether or not the personality would change was simply not a matter of concern. In other words, Milim-sama is not indestructible because she is not a true dragon species. If you kill Milim-sama, you will incur the wrath of the resurrected Veldanova-sama. Testarossa summed up what Velgrand had said. Perhaps, I think that's the right way to look at it. Alright, then, let's just warn Milim, too. I said as such, and Velgrand nodded. Then she turned to Masayuki, who was sitting next to her. You look like someone else, but… Masayuki, you're definitely a target, so you have to be very careful, okay? They're not giving up yet. Your Majesty. Unlike here in the labyrinth, you can't come back from the dead in the Empire. You must be more aware of this and take better care of yourself. We will do everything in our power to protect your Majesty, but the other party is still our opponent. Your Majesty yourself must be more aware of this. Oh okay. I understand. Masayuki's lame-ass reply brought the afternoon's discussions to an end. That's all for today, hope you guys enjoy it. Please check my other videos. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe and hit the notification icon. And don't miss any updates. Thank you for watching.